Hi, it's Crystal again. I am still talking about my book, The Four Agreements, and we're on to the next part. So, this is the book, so everyone can see. And now we're going to talk about the third agreement, which is don't make assumptions. And, people always make assumptions because you're trying to figure things out and, trying to understand them. But sometimes assumptions cannot be helpful because you're filling in blanks without really knowing what really is going on. So, as I said on the last video, I think I'll read all of the passages that I have in each page because I don't want to make these videos too long. But I also don't want to skimp on what I felt impacted me a lot with the book. So we'll just get started. So right on the beginning, I have because we are afraid to ask for clarification, we make assumptions. Then we defend our assumptions and try to make someone else wrong. We don't perceive things the way they are. We make an assumption about the meaning, and when the truth comes out, the bubble of our dreams pop, and we find out it was not what we thought it was at all. And yes, that's unfortunately the way it works, is that, we make assumptions, and of course, we want things in our favor. But we're afraid to ask for clarification because maybe we'll be disappointed with what we find out. But the other thing is that we can make up a whole dialogue on things that we assume are happening and what people think. And you know what? My dad, this is right up his alley about assumptions. I would say things about I don't have a specific example. And he didn't say it just to me. He said it to a lot of us in the house, my brothers, sisters, my mom. But he would say it. He says, "You don't know that." And I try and keep that in mind when I see things and, you go, "Oh, well, they must have whatever." And it's like, well, no, not necessarily. And I can hear my dad in my head, "You don't know that." And until you know the facts, I mean, sure, people spout off a lot of things, and I'll say, "Well, how did you find out?" "Oh, well, I heard about it or I saw it on Facebook or something." And, the bigger the claim, I want to facts because I don't like making assumptions about things because we don't know for sure. So I personally have my dad in my head, so just remember that when you're thinking about something, you can hear, well, you can hear my voice. You won't unfortunately hear my dad, but he said, "You don't know that." So keep that in mind when you hear stuff or you make things up. Making assumptions in our relationships is really asking for problems. Often we make the assumption that our partners know what we think and that we don't have to say what we want. That couldn't be further from the truth. But it's not only in just marriage, boyfriend, girlfriend, it's in any relationship. Just because people know you, don't necessarily make that they know everything that you want. Some things that people tell me or I tell them, they're like, "Really, you would do it?" And we're like, "Yeah," and so, we don't know as close as a relationship. Even my own husband, there's some things that surprised me about him that he would do that I didn't think he would, or that he wanted, and I didn't realize that he wanted these things. Oh, good example. I got a gaming system for us at home a long time ago when we first came out. And I got it for him, and he was so excited. And he said, "I have never had a game like this before, and I really, really, really love it." And he was like enthralled with it for like a longest time. And I thought, wow, I didn't realize. I mean, I didn't have a gaming console when I was a kid either, growing up. But I don't know. I thought he might have one or something, but nope, apparently not. So, I didn't know that. On to the next one. We have millions of questions that need answers. It is not important if the answer is correct. Just the answer itself makes us feel safe. That is why we make assumptions. We believe something. We assume we are right about it to the point that we will destroy relationships in order to defend our position. We make the assumption that everyone sees life the way we do. You make this assumption, for instance, then you discover you aren't able to do it. Perhaps you need to gather more facts about a particular situation. Or maybe you need to stop lying to yourself about what you truly want. Yes, so, assumptions, for instance, that said, you discover you aren't able to do it. You make this assumption. Well, sure, you make an assumption that you think you're going to be finished at a certain time, and then you promise somebody something, and then you're not able to be able to do that. And so that in itself is not very good. I just noticed I'm like way out of focus. Um, let's see if we can fix that up a little bit. Here, let's try that. Oh, that's better. Okay, we'll try that. I didn't realize it was so blurry. I'm sorry. Not that looking at me is important, but it's nice to have a conversation and be able to look at somebody. Anyway, so you make assumptions all the time, and it's not just about relationships and what you want and stuff. The other things it spoke about was, we want the answers, so it makes us feel safe. Assumptions are answers that we feed ourselves in order to get through whatever it is that we're getting through. You could be stressed about something and, oh, he's just being a jerk. That's why he's doing it. So it satisfies us. Well, he's a jerk and that's why he's doing it. But maybe he's held up at work. Maybe he's, had an accident. And, that's why they're late or not in your presence. But we make assumptions in order to answer the question. Because maybe the truth isn't what we want to hear. Certainly not an accident is not what we want to hear. And, I mean, I've seen people fight over things, and I'm like, no, that's not true. This is what happened. And they're like, oh, uh, this is a long time ago in high school, but, like you make assumptions like your boyfriend was talking to somebody, and then you assume that they're in some kind of torrid affair. Meanwhile, they were asking for help for homework or, something like that. But sometimes people create drama, and so assumptions help them to string that along. And then, use it as an excuse to either get out of something or to try and, you know, uh, manipulate the situation to what they want it to be without looking at the facts. And so we fool ourselves into thinking that our way is the only way and that people should see it obviously from our point of view. Um, but that's just simply not the case. People don't uh, see the world that we do, and because they have different experiences, simply in a different headspace. So you have to be clear about it, what it is you're saying or asking for, because people aren't mind readers. Not even your marriage partner, or live-in partner, or whoever, or your family or your immediate family. Anybody, they can take a good guess, of course, but yeah, they're going to make assumptions if they're trying to figure something out. So ask, get the answer. It'll be much simpler that way. The other one, we don't need to justify love. It is there or not there. Real love is accepting other people the way they are without trying to change them. If we try to change them, that means we don't really like them. Isn't that interesting? But it's true. I had a girlfriend who, and if she sees this video, she's going to know exactly who she is. But it's a good example because I said, well, why are you with him? She didn't like the way he smiled. And that is a physical thing that you cannot change. I mean, unless he was doing something really dumb or, being silly. But from what I understood, no, he just the way he smiled, but she couldn't stand it. She's like, can't you smile nice? And I was thinking, you shouldn't be with this person because you don't even like the way they smile. It wasn't even like a relationship issue in the sense that, he was bad to her or something. It was just simply the way he smiled. Hi, baby girl. My cat just went by. She's She's going to get a snack, and that's my other cat meowing in the background. So yeah, you've got to, you know, it's true. If you want to change somebody, then you probably shouldn't be with them. My husband is a myriad of problems, as do I physically, and are we perfect? No, of course not. Far from it. However, at the core, I love my husband and I care about what happens to him and how he is in his well-being. And you know, obviously, when we're younger, you know, I mean, you attract in a way, you know, some kind of spark that happens between you. But then as you are together longer, then you realize it's someone's well-being rather than what they look like. So you know, these are things that you have to consider. So you know, um, be truthful with yourself too. You know, and really see things clearly. Ask yourself those clarifying questions. There's something. All right, the next one is the way to keep yourself from making assumptions is to ask questions. Make sure the communication is clear. If you don't understand, ask. I ask a lot of questions. I ask people all the time questions. And I don't even mean to be rude, and I usually try and say, you know, I'm just simply asking because I think I've said in previous videos, you know, I really find it interesting, like why someone turned left instead of right. So, you know, it's good to know and talk to people. Everybody has the right to tell you no or yes, but you always have the right to ask. Likewise, everybody has the right to ask you. You have the right to say yes or no or answer the question. Without making assumptions, your word becomes impeccable. Yes, because if you don't say the assumptions that you're thinking, then your word becomes more impeccable, which was an earlier video, which you can refer back to or pick up the book. Information or an idea is merely the seed in your mind. What will really make the difference is action. Yes, you can have a lot of great ideas and, you know, assume that they're going to all be fabulous, but until you actually do them, then we're only making assumptions at how fabulous things are. Oh, and that's the end. I guess that's why I'm combining a few. So that was the end of the second agreement, which is don't make assumptions. And yeah, just to recap the assumptions, you know, unless there's some kind of fact behind it, and I mean direct, like it's not like, oh, well, he always does that, so it must have been him. Well, he may do that quite often, but you don't know unless you've actually seen him do whatever it is, or her, not just him, the person. So you don't really know that. See, Chuck Mela's in there. You don't know that. So yeah, you know, just be careful with how you're filling in the blanks, because unless you've asked directly and clearly to somebody about what it is that you're wondering or filling in the blanks, then you're making an assumption. It can be a slippery slope, but we all do it to some degree. All right, well, we'll move on to the next agreement since that was a short chapter. Always do your best. That's the fourth agreement. Now, this is the last agreement, so maybe that's why I knew there was something in the back of my head. So anyway, always do your best. The fourth agreement is about the action of the first three. Always do your best. But keep in mind that your best is never going to be the same from one moment to the other. Or next. Sorry, I had to turn the page. The next highlights, I'll just read the rest. Your best will depend on whether you are feeling wonderful and happy or upset, angry, or jealous. No more and no less than your best. When you overdo, you deplete your body and go against yourself, and it will take you longer to accomplish your goal. So you're trying to do your best, and a lot depends on your attitude and how you're feeling that day. And doing your best doesn't mean that you have to kill yourself over things. It just means trying to do the best at the moment. There is no bar, it's a sliding scale. And, really in your own mind, you can be a pretty good judge of yourself. So put it to some good use. Instead of pointing the finger at you for yourself for all these perceived failings, maybe you'll want to look at the goals you have, look at them and say, okay, this is what I needed to do. And then the next day, if you didn't do at least a few steps of the overall picture, then you might want to say, did I do my best? I had this all planned out and I was going to do this. Well, maybe I did do my best. A good friend phoned. We talked for half an hour. It was a good conversation. It kind of cut into my plans of what I was going to do, but I made that decision to talk to my good friend, which is also something that you need to, take care of too, friends and family and conversation. Um, so this is what I'm talking about. You have to really analyze yourself and go, did I do my best? If you did, and you were comfortable with that, then carry on with the way you're doing it. And then the next day, start with the plan again and see how close you get. Because if you don't try to do your best to get to certain goals each day that you set out for yourself, then you may want to think, well, why? Now you get to your attitude. Do I feel good today? Is something bothering me? Maybe something traumatic happened, and this is why I'm slowing myself down. So this is a good time to ask yourself the questions and to just see if you are doing your best. And then if you're not, maybe you need some help. Maybe you need to talk to that good friend again the next day. Tell us, say, hey, I felt a little like I didn't do my goals yesterday, and I didn't do my best, but I got to talk to you, so that was a positive. So I'm phoning you back for some advice, or anybody for that matter. But you always want to try and do your best, but that doesn't mean you have to kill yourself over it. Doing your best is taking the action because you love it, not because you're expecting a reward. Yes, that's true too. I mean, we all have jobs we have to do in life that are not, ones we would love to do. However, myself with my other job and this job, I find it extremely interesting. I get to read books and talk to you good folks about them. And also in my other job, I get to do people's makeup and talk to them and they talk to me. I'm kind of like a makeup bartender kind of thing. People like to talk while they're getting things done. So, yeah, so that's, Anyway, so the next page. If we like what we do, if we always do our best, then we really are enjoying life. When you do your best, you learn to accept yourself, but you have to be aware and learn from your mistakes. Exactly. So like what I was saying, I mean, if you didn't get as much done as you did yesterday, well, maybe something was in the way and you got to cut yourself some slack. But if you really didn't do anything and you sat in front of Netflix all day, then you might want to say, well, I watched Netflix all day, so maybe I won't watch it for the next few days because I've gotten all my binge watching done on day one of my goal setting. I know, it's tough out there, but you guys got to be truthful with yourself, and unfortunately, the truth is not always a positive, but it's always motivating and it will always tell you the direction you need to go. So but you'll learn from your mistakes. So we watched Netflix, that was a mistake. Well, we won't do that for the next few days because we've now watched a few days of whatever show we were binge watching. So now we'll get back to our work. But really, I mean, in your job or you're doing a hobby or something, you should really enjoy it. I'm going to mute now for a moment while I get my cat to stop howling. One moment, please. Hey. Shh. Quiet. Oh no. I'm going to have to watch this video back now and see how much, because I moved the mic and, or I went to mute it, and hopefully you didn't hear most of it. And then I was clicking on it, and I'm like, why isn't it changing? And it, as soon as I moved the mouse off, the little red line went away. Anyways, yes, thank you, Kitty, for getting in the way of everything. Oh well, I love them. They drive me crazy sometimes, but I love them. He's howling for his dad because his dad's at work and he's very much his father's baby. Oh, we only have one quote on this whole page. Okay, or point. Action is about living fully. Inaction is the way that we deny life. Yes. Yes. Well, certainly, if you're laying on the couch doing nothing, then you think that you may be going, screw all you, I can do what I want. But really, you know what? You're screwing yourself. You really are. I mean, even if you got up, for example, and got out and sat on the deck, you would probably see some birds, some bugs, a neighbor would walk by, hello, and talk to somebody. And, but that's to your benefit. It's not like, people are going to be, where am I going with this? It's just, I mean, you're sitting on the couch thinking that you're thumbing it to the world, but you really aren't. You're the only one sitting in the room alone doing nothing. Everybody else is out doing their thing. And you know what? There's a lot of failure, there's a lot of frustration, and there's a lot of things going on. But out of all that adversity, you might accomplish something. Believe me, I've faced a lot of adversity. Here we are on YouTube. I would have never guessed in a million years as a kid that this is where we would be at. So let's carry on to the next page. Letting go of the past means you can enjoy the dream that is happening right now. We don't need to know or prove anything, just to be. To take a risk and enjoy your life is all that matters. When you don't do your best, you are denying yourself the right to be you. The first 3 agreements will only work if you do your best. By doing your best, the habits of misusing your word, taking things personally, and making assumptions will become weaker and less frequent with time. All those agreements about the misusing your word, taking things personally, and making assumptions, yeah, you got to do your best. It's not like you're going to take all these agreements and go, oh, hey, I got the answer to life, and just fall into it. No, it takes a while. Even myself, they gave me the advice during the book. I don't know where, we'll run across it perhaps. And it said right on your fridge, on a note, don't take things personally. And, it reminds you that people are reacting to what's going on with them rather than, what you're saying to them. So I don't want to revisit that chapter. We've discussed it at length on the other video. But yes, all of these things, if you just keep trying to do your best in embracing these 4 agreements, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it, And as far as what it said about, you're done, I was just saying, if you lay on the couch, nobody's getting hurt except you. You're the only one suffering, and you may not even realize that you're suffering. Do you have to go out and run a triathlon and do all that? No. But, there was things as a kid that you liked doing. You didn't always want to lay on a couch and do nothing or whatever it is. I'm using the couch as an extreme example. But even people who are, physically sick or, like I've been sick and I still try and do my best. And is my best the same every day? No, certainly not. And then when I'm sick, it's like less than best. But if I keep trying to be positive, no matter how small the positivity, then it's still there and it still exists. And, maybe tomorrow there'll be more and maybe not tomorrow. But, if as long as I keep trying, the possibility is there. Your own body is a manifestation of God. And if you honor your body, everything will change for you. When you honor these 4 agreements together, there is no way that you will live in hell. Can't argue with that. The four agreements are a summary of the mastery of transformation. One of the masteries of the Toltec. You transform hell into heaven. Yes. I mean, we feed ourselves a lot of thoughts, we fill in the blanks, and, if you're going down a negative road, it's hard to get out of. I don't claim that it's easy. I really don't. And I am not a person that is negative. I do my very best to try and not feed it into negativity. And sometimes it can backfire on me because I don't ask people for certain types of help, because I get help all the time. I'm disabled. I have people working for me, and I know how to ask for help. But certain instances, it's hard to ask for help. And well, for example, I was down a little while ago. Here, I'll use myself. I was down. I haven't been able to do my other job for a long time, nor this job as much as I would like to. And I was feeling down about that. I haven't gotten any new customers from my other job. And I haven't been able to leave the house very often because we have a vehicle that's broken. And because of where we live, it's not as easy for me to get out of the house and do things. And so I was down and I was really quiet, and I didn't post on social media except for work posts. And, after a while I thought, well, what am I doing here? I don't feed into negativity, but at the same time, the negativity seems to be winning. So then I'm like, well, then it's time to not be quiet. Talk to people, say stuff. Because when you feel that everything's overwhelming, and I get it, maybe some people can't. I mean, there's a huge thing about mental illness, and, the mind is an amazingly deep, unfathomable, chasm that we barely understand. So I don't take it lightly that, people sometimes can't get themselves out of it. But certainly, if you hear this and you're trying, reach out to somebody, anybody. There's crisis lines, but we're going a little deeper. We're just trying to do our best. But maybe that is you're doing your best. You need to reach out to some help for mental health, or because it can get really cloudy, and if your mind is telling you certain things, it still may not be true. Just because your mind made it up doesn't mean it's true. So you got to ask, just like it said earlier in the, you got to ask questions. Don't make assumptions. If you're not feeling good, talk to somebody. Say, hey, I don't feel good. And then maybe through conversation or sharing, you'll find out some answers. So, that's how you're going to transform your life. It's not, money and all of that. It's how you look at it. It is what it is. And you have to get through it. And if you wanted to improve it, then you're going to have to take those small steps to make some improvements. So if you fall, do not judge. Do not give your judge the satisfaction of turning you into a victim. If you break an agreement, begin again tomorrow and again the next day. Today is the beginning of a new dream. So there you go. That's the fourth agreement, is always to do your best. So you've been armed with the 4 agreements, and you have them in your hands. 3 of them. The 4th one supports all of them through action. And you try it out. Try and read the book, see what it says. So we're on to the next chapter, and I'm almost at the end of it. Because the end of the book has like prayers and things like that. So let me just read through. This last chapter is chapter 6, and it's called The Toltec Path to Freedom, Breaking Old Agreements. Because as we've reviewed in this book, we make agreements on what we know and what we learn. But as we learn, it should evolve, because we change, so then our agreements should change, and how we view the world and what we believe to be true and not true. And so if we base what we're doing on these 4 agreements that we've just talked about, then there's a shift, but it allows for some change in your life. So the first passage out of chapter 6 on how to break your old agreements, let's just read a few passages that I highlighted. Who really stops us from being free? We stop ourselves. As children, we are not afraid of the future or ashamed of the past. Yes, you remember when you played, you played. You were a kid. You didn't care whether it was right or wrong. You just, hey, let's do this, and they either agreed or didn't. And even if they didn't, it wasn't that big of a deal. We are no longer free because the judge, the victim, and the belief system do not allow us to be who we really are. There is no need to blame your parents or anyone who abused you in your life, including yourself. But it is time to stop the abuse. It is time to free yourself of the tyranny of the judge by changing the foundation of your own agreements. It is time to be free from free from the role of the victim. Something that changes. Responsibilities. The judge in your head, we've covered it earlier in the other videos if you've followed along. The judge says, wait a second, you are responsible. You have things to do. You have work. You have to go to school. You have to earn a living. All these come to your mind, and our face becomes serious again. So the judge is always there wagging a finger because you are your own judge. And you've got to get that judge to chill out a little bit. And even the judge makes assumptions. So don't let the judge in your head telling you, oh, you should. Don't should. You either want or you need it, or just you want it or you need it. One of those two things. And both are, need is obviously, you need water to live, you need a house to live in, and you want, well, I want a nice house and I want clean water, for example, because, the whole world doesn't have clean water. But so that you see the difference between need and want, but both, are equally important because, what we want, are things to satisfy us, either, to keep us alive, because clean water does that. But, you want a nice place. I mean, the house, if you get a house, sure, you'll be housed, but maybe it won't be a very cheerful abode, and, it plays on your mind. And so you want a nice home, because then you want to feel comfortable. So those are the needs and wants. The problem with most people is that they live their lives and never discover that the judge and the victim rule their mind, and therefore they don't have a chance to be free. Yes, all those inner dialogues you're having with yourself, and oh, I can't deserve this. I'm the victim, I don't deserve it. Well, whether you do or not, that's up to you. However, you've got to really examine things. I mean, a victim, oh, please help me. We can help yourself. I help myself all the time. However, the difference with people saying, oh, I can do it all. That's not what I mean about I can help myself and I can get through things. What I mean is that I can help myself because I can recognize when I am on my own and I really need some help. I'm moving right now, as a matter of fact, which is also why I haven't had a video for a while, because I've been searching for a suitable apartment for my husband and I. We're having to move rather quickly, and unfortunately, the one girl that works for me that's quite good at packing is away on a holiday. She told me about this like 6 months ago before I even knew I was going to move. So here I am in this situation, but I have to ask for help because I need more than one girl or I'm going to run her into the ground, and I don't want to do that. So I need help. Does that make me weaker or a victim? No, of course not, because I recognize that it's not going to happen unless I do get some help. My husband's at work every day. I mean, somebody's got to finance this operation as far as the move. So, so that's where we're at. So you just got to remember to not do that. Oh my Lord, my cat is going to drive me nuts. Sorry. Haha. See? I learned how to use the mute button. Anyway, every time I talk, the cat starts howling. He's watching me from the hallway. Right, so you got to free yourself because you got to recognize that, sure, it's great to be able to do things on your own, but you also have to recognize that you need help, that you can't do everything on your own. People need other people. It's just a fact. We didn't get here this far in life without some help, right? We got a few passages to read here. There are 3 masteries that lead people to become Toltecs: mastery of awareness, mastery of transformation, mastery of intent. The mastery of intent is therefore the mastery of love. All humans who are domesticated are sick. The food for the parasite is the negative emotions that come from fear. If we look at the description of a parasite, we find that a parasite is a living being who lives off other living beings, sucking their energy without any useful contribution in return, and hurting their host little by little. The judge, the victim, and the belief system fit this description very well. So you see how you need to shift how you do things with these 4 agreements, because you're sucking the life out of yourself if you're always negative on yourself and, oh no, I'm not going to go outside, and oh, I'm not going to do any work. Oh, I can't do it because I can't do it on my own. Therefore, I'm going to do nothing. Who's suffering? You. You're alone. You're sitting there by yourself. And why? Because you decided not to get help or not reach out to anybody. And you need to do that. It's as simple as that. None of us get through life all by ourselves. You need help in any myriad of ways. One function of the brain is to transform material energy into emotional energy. Yes. Because your brain takes in things and people and what's going on, and then we have a reaction to things around us. And if, like assumptions, you get all worked up because your boyfriend's talking to some girl, meanwhile she's asked for help for homework, we'll say, for example. You should have enough trust in your relationship that if someone's coming up to talk to your partner, that you shouldn't freak out right away and have an assumption and then judge yourself for being with this guy and then being the victim because he's talking to some girl. There's a path you could go down. It's all in how you, so you go over to him and you ask him, you say, hey, I saw you talking to so-and-so. What was that all about? And not in a, what is that all about? It's, what was that all about? Oh, she wanted to help with X, Y, and Z. I'm very good in this subject, and so she asked me for my help. Okay, great. Now, if they start spending a lot of time together, you might want to revisit that question. But really, if you trust the relationship, then you shouldn't have to worry about things like that. You're just making assumptions, and you're not helping yourself at all. One solution is to attack the parasite head by head, which means we face each of our fears one by one. Every time we face one of the fears, we are a little more free. Second approach is starvation. To do this, we have to gain control of our emotions. We have to refrain from fueling the emotions that come from fear. Like the boyfriend talking to the girl. We're afraid. We're afraid he's going to find her more interesting. But you can't feed into that because you're assuming what he's thinking. And a third solution, without harming our physical body, when we die, symbolically, the parasite has to die. This is faster than the first 2 solutions, but it is even more difficult to do. Oh God, that doesn't sound right. Without harming our physical body, when we die, in quotes, symbolically, yes, the parasite has to die. Oh, I see. Symbolic death, not that you're actually going to kill yourself. Oh God, that would be horrible, wouldn't it? No, no, no. No. That's never the answer. Never. You need to talk to somebody if you feel that way. But no, symbolically, like, oh, I'm going to leave my past because someone did me harm when I was young and I keep thinking about it, and you're actively working to remove that thought from your mind in order to or deal with it head on, and then you want to push it aside because we've dealt with it. uh, Whatever incident it was, I'm the only one around. Maybe everybody, is not in the same city or even in your presence, in which case you let it die because there's nothing to be gained by carrying it around. So you just bury it and that's it. It's over. Now, that's different than avoiding something. And so this is the questions, when I read these quotes, like, well, especially this one, because this one's a little heavy. I didn't mean to read it the way I did the first time, or, infer anything. But, you have to deal with your problems. Face them and look at them clearly and say, does this have any merit in my life? Horrific things happen all the time. I've had operations, I've had accidents in my wheelchair, like serious, like I've fallen out of my wheelchair a lot, and I've had lots of operations, and you have to get through it. And I could sit back and say, "Oh, poor me," like I had these operations, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, and it was horrible, it was painful. Oh my God, you got to drop off the emotional baggage and go, you know what? It happened. It's over. Does it hurt now? No. Does me going, oh, poor me now, help me out in any way? No. Nobody who's involved, for me, example, in my surgeries, is around except for my mother. And, we don't talk about negative things. We can talk about it, but it's not like it's affecting me now. It's over. It's been done. It essentially only exists in my head. And if I can get it out of my head, then it has no weight. Or you make it have no weight. However, which way you do that. So the next page is, now it's up to you to choose what to believe and what not to believe. You can choose to believe anything, and that includes believing in yourself. To really change your beliefs, you need to focus your attention on what it is you want to change. Reprogramming your own mind. One of the ways to do this is to explore and adopt alternative beliefs, such as the Four Agreements. That's one way out of the dream of hell. But for every agreement you break, that makes you suffer. You will need to replace it with a new agreement that makes you happy. Now, this isn't the core, like the title agreements is what they're talking about. These are agreements that you've made in your head that these are beliefs that you've held on to. But then maybe some don't feel so good, and you're like, well, wait a minute, should I still be believing this? It doesn't make me very happy. Maybe I shouldn't. And so you have to re-examine again. Don't make assumptions as to why you're holding on to certain agreements. Are they valid? Do they make you feel good? And if they don't, then you might want to seriously, kick them to the side. Step by step, and be patient with yourself because this is a slow process. You cannot expect to break the domestication in one day. Breaking agreements is very difficult. Oh, okay. I thought the next page would have one because it's not a complete sentence. Anyway, yes, for sure. The belief system that you have, depending on how old you are, I mean, still, it's been ingrained in you. I mean, I guess even if you're in your teens or 20s, you would still be, governed by certain beliefs because of what you've grown up with and, who your family is and such. But you may want to really examine the beliefs. I mean, you could be fine. There's maybe nothing to change. Or at least as you go along, you can re examine things as you go. Because is this Is it valid? Does it make sense? And usually things feel good or bad, and that's how you're going to gauge it, because your gut's going to tell you what you need to know, and you're going to have to really examine everything and take stock in what's going on. To live in hell or to live in heaven? My choice is to live in heaven. That's what the book says, and that is what I agree with. What is yours? I'll leave you with that question then. And we've reached the end of the book. Now, this video is a little longer than the rest, so I hope you made it through. I know it's 45 minutes. Thank God for pause. And I'm sorry about my cat. He was quiet all afternoon, and then suddenly he decided to howl, like he is doing now. And unfortunately, I will let you go because I'm not going to pause and mute and everything. I really appreciate you sticking with me, whoever stuck with me about the 4 agreements. I was just an experiment. I wanted to see. I really liked the book, and then life got in the way. But I finished it, so I am doing my best. I've got some other books that I've read. They're not quite so long, and I'm going to have to wait until after I move, and this is now June. Who knows? I might make little snippets and not so formal as these videos. I'm trying to get a different setup and things. So we're working on things. And so I got through my first book review of a book that I really enjoyed. I hope that you look it up in Amazon or your local bookstore. Again, there's a link below to it. It's not affiliated whatsoever. It's just a link to the book in Amazon.ca for Canadian folks. And that's it. So I'm glad you stayed with me. Thank you so much for your time. And we will talk about some other things. If you happen to be watching and you have some suggestions, please feel free to comment below. I will read them, although there's none to read right now, but got to start somewhere. All right. Have a great day, and I will see you on the next video in probably a couple of weeks, I would imagine. Unless I can upload with my phone, which again is the one setup that I'm speaking of. That's going to be a little different. All right. So keep an eye out. All right. Take care. Bye.